Assalamu alaikum and welcome to this World Free Zone Organization Safe Zone launch program. Can we project the agenda of today, please? Assalamu alaikum and welcome again. This is a specific webinar from the World Free Zone Organization, which objective it is to launch our flagship project, the Safe Zone program. We have prepared a very tough agenda for you, very rich one, in which we will go through all the elements of this project. But first of all, let me ask Chairman of the Board of Directors of the World Free Zone Organization, Dr. Mohammed Zaraouni, to present us his welcome speech. Dr. Mohammed, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me start by welcoming you to this webinar and to our official launch of Safe Zone, a very unique trade certification program for free zones. This is just one of many such certification programs that we have put in place to support our free zone members everywhere in the world. The World Free Zones Organization was created to share best practices among its free zone members and to help them optimize their business performance with precisely designed instruments and programs. Last year, we launched our Izdihar Index as a global initiative for local prosperity to provide free zones with accurate metrics along their operations. Now we are rolling out a new program that will enable free zones to keep their trade flows clean and to present credentials to that effect. Safe Zone is designed to ensure proper compliance procedures are in place within a free zone to ensure clean trade flows. It is a signal to the business community that a free zone operates in compliance with international laws and regulations. Developed in consultation with several global organizations, the Safe Zone certification is built around the OECD's Code of Conduct for Free Trade Zones. By agreeing to follow this Code of Conduct, certified free zones demonstrate their commitment to eliminate illicit trade, counterfeit products, and money laundering. To be certain that this commitment is in place, internationally vetted third-party inspectors will visit the premises of the free zone to verify that the proper systems and procedures are in place. This thorough process is why certified free zones in relevant territories will be able to use their Safe Zone credentials to apply for authorized economic operator status. This will enable them to achieve worldwide recognition and credibility and to attract high volumes of legitimate business. To best launch this program, the World Free Zones Organization has conducted a pilot program for Safe Zone with 5 of our existing members, whom I would like to thank here today. Low Freeport in Luxembourg, Bogota Free Zone in Colombia, Dubai Airport Free Zone here in the UAE, Klaipeda Free Economic Zone in Lithuania, and El Consorci Zona Franca Barcelona in Spain. The overwhelming positive feedback we received and the detailed comments we compiled allowed us to fine-tune the program to its most advanced stage. Mr. Lars Carlson, CEO of KGH Global Services, whom partnered with us to build the Safe Zone program, will present the complete steps of the certification process to you in his presentation. As a new global compliance procedure, we are convinced that Safe Zone will increase trade security and safety for all free zones involved. The clean trade label that it will confer on participating zones will help them attract better terms from partners and service providers, as well as better collaboration with customs services. The reduced risk profile that the certificate will also provide can help participating zones secure better terms from insurers and bankers. This will improve their liquidity and access to capital. The program's compatibility with established international standards from the OECD, the WCO, and the WTO will further enhance business practices for all parties involved. Finally, the whistleblower system that we have also put in place on the Safe Zone website will also allow anonymous parties to report violations of the OECD Code of Conduct in any certified free zone. This will further ensure that the Safe Zone label remains secure and solid, as regular reviews and inspections are conducted regularly to uphold the certificate as a trusted brand of legitimate trade across the world. To find out more, I invite you to visit our newly launched website. We look forward to helping voluntary compliance management models like this one continue to nurture clean trade in free zones globally in partnership with international institutions, national agencies, and the global private sector trading community. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I am pleased to officially launch the World FZO Safe Zone program.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Thank you twice. Without your continuous support and trust, we will not reach this great moment. The remaining part of this program will present you more details of all what the Chairman already announced in his comprehensive speech. Thank you again, Chairman. So there is no launching without a video. We'll share with you the video launch of our Safe Zone program.
Quarter of global trade goes through thousands of free zones around the world every year. But how can we be sure those free zones don't harbor illicit trade? Introducing Safe Zone, a global certification program designed and managed specifically for free zones by the World Free Zones Organization. Safe Zone certified entities agree to follow the OECD Code of Conduct for Clean Free Trade Zones, which forms the backbone of this program. Internationally vetted third-party inspection ensures impartial validation. With ties to established standards from the World Customs Organization and the World Trade Organization, Safe Zone will protect clean trade in free zones everywhere. Find out more on certificationshub.com. Safe Zone.
Thank you very much, and thank you. We have looked to the already 300 registered person, and I saw that almost the majority of them are from entities that are connecting for the first time with our organization. This is why, before presenting in detail our Safe Zone program, let me share with you some information about our organization very briefly. So we are the Association of the Free Zones. We are an NGO. We are registered in Geneva and headquartered in Dubai, and we have been launched in May 2014. Our vision is to take the free zone beyond the simple objective of the economic development. We want to take them beyond and create prosperity for their local community. And as a mission, we are not just focusing on reaching these objectives by our own. We are here to reach them thanks to our stakeholders. And this is why we invited you today. We have 3,000 free zones around the world in 165 countries, 80 million persons working inside, hosting 3 million companies. And I'm proud today to say that we have 655 members, which are including some association. This means that we are the voice of almost 1,500 free zone from our community. We are present in 131 countries. But on the top of our headquarters in Dubai, we have 10 regional offices in Dominican Republic, in Argentina, Morocco, Nigeria, Spain, Serbia, Jordan, Kazakhstan, India, and China. And we have also appointed 37 national contact points to make our message and our awareness reaching better our members. We have also started speaking and collaborating with the all multilateral organizations, mentioned them. With some of them, we have already signed an MOU to go further collaboration. In 2017, as the chairman said, we launched a program called the Free Zone of the Future. We asked ourselves how a free zone will look like in 25 years. We defined it as the free zone of the future. In 2018, we said we will not need 25 years to reach this objective. Let's make it in 5 years. And this is why in 2019, we reached our program called Free Zone 4, the one that chairman mentioned as SDR Index, Prosperity Index. In few words, what is a Free Zone 4? A Free Zone 4 is a free zone committed on the top of their mandatory obligation in improving the business excellence and economic contribution to the country. They are committed with quality, innovation, and sustainability. 9 elements to make the free zones, the free zone of the future. Quality. A free zone is a place in which we have a lot of knowledge accumulated, a lot of technology that we need to transfer this knowledge to our society. Today, we will present you our Safe Zone program. Digital is the key for the future of the free zone. We need to prepare our zone to be tech ready. 85% of the free zones companies are small and medium enterprises companies. We need to focus on them, and we need to create an incubation center in each one of our free zones. Environment is a key element for our free zone of the future. Quality of job of quality is the future, and every free zones should have its corporate social responsibility program. So today we are here to present you one of the 9 points that I mentioned, the Safe Zone program. So we are looking for your collaboration to build one step for the free zone of the future. So since further, I will move now to the next step of our agenda, and I will ask my colleague Lars, CEO of KGS Global Consulting, and as mentioned by Chairman, our partner from the beginning of the journey, to present the Safe Zone program process. Lars, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samir, and good morning, everybody. It's a great pleasure and a great privilege and an honor for me today to give you an overview of the Safe Zone certification process. I will do so by sharing my slide with you here. And of course, we live today in an age of globalization. We also live in a time of crisis. We are all on this call involved in now shaping our exit plans from where we've been during the COVID-19 Corona crisis pandemic. And we all know that trade development will become a very important integrated part of any recovery for all our economies, all our entities, and all our companies. This, of course, in itself, because trade is important. Trade development is what creates prosperity. It is what creates jobs, and it is what fights poverty. And we've known that for decades. And that is why it's so great to be a part of this journey, the new journey of the World Free Zone Organization. And I commend the World Free Zone Organization for doing and taking these initiatives with this new flagship Safe Zone program. It will be able to integrate free ports, free zones, special economic zones into our international supply chain and global value chains. That will be so important for the future and the recovery of the economy after the pandemic crisis, but also to develop our societies over time. What is Safe Zone then? Safe Zone is a voluntary compliance and risk management program. It is very compatible with international standards and international best practices, including those other compliance and risk management programs that do exist for the global supply chain. It is introducing a new high-level standard, a segmented standard for zones, using an internationally adopted code of conduct, which we will hear more about from our colleague from OECD a little bit later in the program of today's launch. But it's creating primarily a safe alternative compliant traders by segmenting zones that voluntarily wants to be transparent, that voluntarily wants to be compliant and also show the good governance that is needed to be on that level in international supply chains and global value chains, making it possible for free ports, free zones, special economic zones around the world with inclusiveness to become important engines of a post-pandemic international trade superhighway network, which we are starting to see emerging as a result of the crisis we've been in. So what is Safe Zone more? Well, Safe Zone is a very structured, comprehensive process of going through several steps to show that those demands, those criteria that have been created in a wider scale of work during the last 2 years, and with a pilot process as was described by Dr. Zamir before, which again has enabled us to use experience from 20 years of creating compliance management and risk management programs. And it has two major vehicles: the code of conduct that has been mentioned and will be mentioned many times during today, which is extremely important as the engine of this program, but also a security declaration, which is basically the link between the inhabitants of a free zone and the free zone owner itself. This is the basically the process overview of the process of the Safe Zone certification, which has the elements that we see from these type of programs globally: an online application, a self-assessment phase where the zone itself has to go through these different criteria and see how they meet them and how they can develop further to meet the criteria. As I said, the Code of Conduct and Security Declaration are the leading guiding instruments to use, but there's also a self-assessment questionnaire with a number of questions linked to the Code of Conduct and Security Declaration to make sure that the free zone itself really knows what is the demands and how to meet them, and also how to become a better zone. We then have a validation site inspection phase and a risk mapping phase where, again, as was said before, independent inspectors visit the zone, have a dialogue, discuss, and look at the process so far. There's a validation report, and that leads to the final decision on reaching the criteria of the safe zone or not. This is not where the process ends, is where the process starts. So you also then need to monitor and manage the process further. While I want to highlight 3 things that I think is extremely important. One is the incident reporting. So a safe zone has the obligations to let World Free Zone Organization know when something goes wrong, when something happens. And that is a part of building the trust that is necessary for a safe zone. We also have, as heard, the whistleblower system, which is an important tool and instrument in this specific type of setup, because it means that everybody working in the zones or in the companies, inhabitants of a zone, have an opportunity to let people know if something is of a kind that should be inspected, that should be looked at, that should be addressed. And of course, we also have a review mechanism, which is extremely important. So every 2 years at minimum, there will be a monitoring revalidation, which means, again, that third-party validators, as I said also are before, and was said before also, is doing the site inspection validation, will also do a address and a revalidation, reevaluation of the criteria, of the performance, and of how the safe zone still meets the criteria of the safe zone program. And there are really 3 outcomes of this program. If everything is met, the zone will get a platinum certificate, will become a safe zone, level 2. If a zone is almost meeting the criteria, but there are still some things to be amended. They can get a level 1 status for 12 months as a prospect, working on as soon as possible, meeting all of the criteria. If this is done within the 12 months, then they will be elevated to the platinum certificate status. If not, of course, the third outcome is they have to go back, continue to develop, and then apply again. I also want to raise in this context, of course, the importance of what is offered then. As we said, we do see that from the pilot phases, as well as we were here in the program as well, the compliance, the integrity of the zones, and the instruments that is offered through the Safe Zone certification puts the code of conduct into a context, into a working program, into an implementation stage. And that, of course, makes it possible for the zones to use this in different ways and link it into, again, different types of clients, different type of companies, but also into the international supply chain. And again, the code of conduct here plays an extremely important role. That is why I think it's so important that what we are doing today is a milestone. It is a leapfrog into the future, because we all know that the international supply chain and the global value chains will be essential for us going forward, moving into a new normal after the pandemic, but also to build our societies for the future. And by doing that, we all know that any supply chain or value chain is not stronger as the weakest link. And today we made a strong link even stronger. And I think that that is what the supply chain needs to do and link together. So, of course, as was said before, do visit the certificationshub.com on the World Free Zone Organization's website. There you have all the information about the Safe Zone certification process, about the procedures, the requirements, the costs, everything involved. And you can also there apply for becoming a safe zone, a certified safe zone. And I would recommend all of you on this call to have a look at this, either if you're a zone to become a safe zone, or you work with partners that is involved in this specific line of work, to actually exercise the opportunity to become a safe zone as soon as possible. So please don't wait, apply now, do what's right for the future, like some of our colleagues on the agenda today have already done, and you will become the free ports, the free zones, the special economic zones of the future, driving prosperity. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Lars. You have been on time and precise. And just let me add 2 elements. I invite all the participants to share with us any question they have in mind for any speakers. And my commitment to share 24 hours after the end of this event all the presentation that have been done by the speakers. So among other documents you will receive what I call the white paper. The white paper is the detailed description of what just Lars precised today. It includes an abstract. It will present how illicit trade have affected till now the zones. It will present our role and what we are doing for our community in this sense. It will give more information about our Safe Zone certification program and detail the process that Lars just mentioned today. And we will explain what are the benefits for the free zones to join this program. This, you will receive it later, 24 hours after the end of this event. I would like to ask Ambassador Bruno to share with us his thoughts. Please, Bruno, you have 10 minutes.
Okay, thanks a lot, Samir. Can we have the slides? Okay. First, I would like to comment the fact that I am very happy and honored to participate to this launch of the Safe Zone program of the World Free Zone Organization. It's a very important day, and I think it's a very, very, very important milestones regarding for all the people who have followed all the efforts since the beginning made by the World Free Zone Organization to address the issue of illicit trade and compliance and transparency. First point, if you can go to the next slide, just a reminder to see what has been the recent trend towards more compliance and transparency in international trade. For a lot of goods, we have now benchmarks, standards, and regulations regarding the trade of those specific goods. For diamonds, for oil and gas, for tobacco, for wildlife trafficking, for gold and precious metals, for wood, for palm oil, for maritime transportation, for health products. We have a lot now of standards, international standards, and kind of regulations, which make to the operators of the trade of those goods an obligation to follow certain rules of compliance and transparency. The key word today is comply or die. Because first, what is at stake is the reputational risk for a lot of international companies or multinationals. Second, because you have also a juridical risk also, which you can face. Third, because we have a lot of international sanctions which are today implemented around the world, and it is always very difficult to follow the list of those sanctions which have been issued by states like United States, Europe, or other countries. Also because we have this phenomenon, you made a reference to it, of whistleblowers, which are most of the time protected by new laws, which has been issued by OECD countries. And also because we have this phenomena of a kind of transnational or cross-border justice, where we see that the sanctions can affect a third party outside the borders of the country which is implementing the sanctions. It has become also an instrument in economic war. So the free trade zone cannot ignore or treat by benign neglect this global trend. Can we go to the next slide, please? It is obvious that the bad reputation of certain free trade zones affect all free trade zones, and that the rise of protectionism, which we are witnessing today, may threaten in the future the economic legitimacy of free zones. So it makes to us, as defenders of free zones, a moral and economic obligation to go towards more compliance and transparency. Clean trade is an absolute need if we want to follow the trend of free trade. There cannot be free trade without clean trade. In such a process, the compliant free trade zones will be rewarded because they will be the beneficiary of more investments. They will attract more economic operators in the coming future. Now, what is the challenge today and what are the tools we have at our, and this will be the last slide. Please, can we go to the next slide? The challenge we face today is how to secure compliance and transparency without jeopardizing the efficiency of free zones. The issue is not to have a set of regulation which would jeopardize the development of the free trade zone, but very simple rules, rules which can have to rely on a common standard and which can be verified easily. Here comes the Safe Zone program, what Lars have presented, and also the excellent introduction made by Dr. Al-Zarouni give us the road for the free trade zones to be more compliant and transparent. We have also at our disposal the OECD Code of Conduct. It will be presented by the OECD Secretariat in a few minutes, and we will have at our disposal in a few months not only the Code of Conduct itself, which has been published and endorsed by the OECD member countries, at our disposal a kind of handbook for the free trade zone, a toolkit, which will allow the free trade zone to follow some technicalities, and then the verificators or the auditors will be able to conduct their audit and certification process. We have also to bear in mind that we have at our disposal for the future the status of authorized economic operator for certain free trade zones, which is included in the WCO SAFE package. Of course, the implementation of authorized economic operator will depend on the number of mutual recognition agreements which are signed between customs of different countries. We consider that the real benchmark will be the OECD Code of Conduct, and I am very, very happy to hear that the Safe Zone program has set the OECD Code of Conduct as its main objective, main target. Now we have a process in the Free Trade Zone organization through the SAFE program. It's very practical. It has been very well explained by Lars and Samir. And of course, we are in expectation that later the mutual recognition agreements between customs of different countries will be able to give more strength to the status of authorized economic operators. So in conclusion, first, we have to be careful, just a small warning, we have to be careful not to have too many certifications or benchmarks or audit process. We should work on the same basis, and to my opinion, the OECD Code of Conduct should be the main benchmark to measure the level of compliance of free trade zones. Second point is that I think today is a very important day with the launch of this program. We have already 5 free trade zones which have started to get into this program. And I hope that at the end, in a few years, we'll have all the members of the World Free Zone Organization included in your Safe Zone program and implementing the OECD Code of Conduct. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Bruno. I remember I met Bruno the first time, it was September 2017 in a meeting organized by European Union Intellectual Property Office in Alicante with OECD. He presented a very, very tough speech of how free zones have been abused in illicit trade. Back to Dubai, I informed my chairman, and surprisingly, chairman response was, don't worry, Bruno will be your best partner and supporter. And this is really reality today. I will ask now Piotr to introduce us the Code of Conduct of the OECD. Piotr, you have 10 minutes, please.
Thank you so much, Samir, dear colleagues. Thank you for having me today. I'm really honored and glad to be at this webinar. And I'm really glad that despite the ongoing crisis, we managed sort of swiftly to move onto online environment and carry the agenda forward. And we must not forget that we play in the same team, and our agenda is to counter illicit trade, is to spur free trade and welfare. My name is Piotr Stryszowski, and I work for the Secretariat of the TFCIT, Task Force on Countering Illicit Trade, at the Paris-based international organization, OECD. Samir kindly asked me to say a few words today on the OECD Code of Conduct that's been already mentioned twice, but before I come to this, let me just say a few words of background. Well, the OECD first, it's an international organization, it's a public institution, and our masters are our member countries. We are working for public stakeholders, for national governments, and that applies to all bodies of the OECD, including the one that I support, the Task Force on Countering Illicit Trade. It's an official body of the OECD that deals basically with 2 aspects. The first one is monitoring illicit trade, is to providing a set of objective photographs, what's going on, measuring this phenomenon. And the second one is like based on this evidence is to scope governance gaps behind them and address these governance gaps. Our monitoring efforts we carry forward together with our excellent partner that Samir already mentioned, with this Alicante-based intellectual property office of the European Union, EU-IPO, that hosts a very dynamic think tank called Observatory on Infringement of IP Rights. So together with the EU-IPO, we already developed lots of, I would say, photographs of illicit trade. We try to understand this phenomenon. And part of our research concluded that there are indeed some issues with free trade zones. We provided at least 2 reports. One was why do countries export fakes, and the other one was specifically on free trade zones. Both reports, using statistical robust data set, concluded that on average there is a correlation between flows of illicit trade and activities on free trade zones. So indeed, we just said that there is a correlation. So there is problems in some free trade zones, right? But as Ambassador Delay said, that the bad reputation of these some free trade zones affects all free trade zones. So even though there are some, I would say, problems, I mean that there is a whole perception that free trade zones should be fixed. Immediately, I would say in parallel with the conclusion of our factual research, work began on scoping governance gaps in free trade zone. It was immediate. And Samir, you mentioned the meeting we held in Alicante at EU-IPO. This meeting was sort of concluding our factual research on misuse of free trade zones in illicit trade. And the meeting sort of kicked off our work on addressing governance gaps, how to fix the problem, how to make free trade zones being the most efficient, effective tool in promoting welfare, in promoting clean trade. This meeting also resulted in sort of scoping, I would say, what the governance gaps are. And there was common agreement that there is sort of misunderstandings that free trade zones in some jurisdictions are not within customs jurisdictions, are not within jurisdictions of competent authorities. And that led to work that we pursued to work on the Council recommendation of the OECD on enhancing transparency in free trade zones. So whenever you say code of conduct of the OECD, you formally keep in mind that this is the recommendation of the OECD Council on countering illicit trade, enhancing transparency in free trade zones. This recommendation is publicly available, and I believe that, well, Samir ensuring that it will be circulated to all participants. This recommendation has 2 parts. The first one is the proper recommendation, which is a set of recommendations to OECD member countries. These are general indications how to establish governance frameworks for free trade zones within national jurisdictions. So to say how to deal with local free trade zones and how to approach foreign free trade zones that do not comply with transparency standards. So that's a recommendation. And there's also an annex to this document, which is the code of conduct for free trade zones. So let me spend now 2 minutes for the code of conduct. It's actually pretty short. It sets some general indications for free trade zones, how to achieve transparency standards, how to avoid being misused. I would say there are 3 areas, 3 sets of such indications. The first one is cooperation with competent authorities, which is, well, providing unconditional access to competent authorities, of course, in accordance with domestic law. It's also notification of competent authorities in advance of any industrial, commercial, or service activity taking place in free trade zones. Or there's also transmitting of information or records requested by competent authorities. Another one is concerns indications or instructions for cooperation with economic operators within free trade zones. And that includes background checks or maintenance information. And the last ones are some other instructions, such as incentivizing electronic payments or appointing contact points. And as I said, this code of conduct is pretty general. It's just one page. It's pretty short, and it's open to everyone. So Samir will circulate it, but you might also visit our webpage, oe.cd/TFCAT. And currently, the task force that I manage, under close supervision of our member countries, we are working on the assessment mechanism. So this is sort of, I would say, a black box to assess if a given free trade zone complies with these provisions or not. I must admit that work is going forward under very close supervision of our member countries, key member countries, and outcomes are also being validated by member countries. There is no outcome yet, it's pretty early. So there is, for the moment, no officially appointed assessment mechanism, officially appointed by the OECD and our member countries, also including this one we are talking today. You might find the text on the TFCAT's webpage, as I said, oe.cd/illicit trade. And I would say that's it for this short background. Once again, Samir, thank you so much for having me. Dear colleagues, if you have any further questions, just contact me. You might ask Google Piotr OECD. My name is pretty peculiar, so Piotr OECD will see this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Piotr. I have already a question for you coming from one of the participants. I will give you the floor to answer it later. Just a description of this task force of illicit trade and if what are the other activities OECD is having in this element of illicit trade. I have a question for Lars. What can be the role of the customs in this point? And what is the time frame of the certification? So why do you think, what is the time frame needed to be a certified zone? Just, I would like to share with you again my screen. So as mentioned by Lars, this is our hub, our certification hubs. Today is after the launching word from our chairman, the hub is working for the safe zone. We are working on 3 certifications: safe zone certification, green zone certification, and smart zone certification. Safe zone is already in March and it is was launched by the chairman. So the process is very easy. There is a registration and there is an application form to be presented. Once we have run our screening process of any application we receive, the participant can have a note and the roadmap, the explanatory notes to explain to them how the process is run. They have to download some eligibility documents, and one of these documents, 2 out of these documents, the security declaration and the OECD code of conduct, they have to sign both and share with us. And immediately after, we start the process as described by Lars with the self-assessment questionnaire. The next step of this launch is some words from 2 free zones that have run it already, the pilot zone, just to explain to them their experience. As mentioned by Chairman, I would like to welcome Aimantas from Klaipėda Free Zone, Lithuania. Aimantas, the floor is yours. Please brief us about your experience.
Okay. Yes, Dr. Samir, thank you for inviting me to present our experiences, dear colleagues. First of all, I should say that for us, this program is very practical. It perfectly fitted to our development strategy because in the current world, any kind of new customer which is coming to our zone, we're looking for some additional value to be gotten in FEZ. We created our infrastructure, which was something which was value some time ago. We created some additional services which was value also some time ago, but now as companies are moving to 4.0 direction, we as Free Zone should move to that direction as well. And naturally, safety, security, and transparency, one of additional values which we can also provide to them. So we see, for us, it's like a strategic direction. It's absolutely must to do in order to have additional benchmarking in competition with also another free zones. Maybe according to the different studies which we are receiving now, number of decisions on relocations and expansion dropped by 70–50%. So it means that our joint market for the new customers dropped essentially, and it's coming back only during next, perhaps in the first quarter of 22. So we are winning clients by very low margin, and this safety transparency again plays quite important role, especially for us in the Baltics, where our main investors are from Scandinavia. Again, in our zone, we have free territories, we have customs warehouses, we have companies which are operating with tobacco and strong alcohol. And it's good to say that none of them refused to cooperate. Everybody agreed to participate on a program, and everybody learned from that process as well. Lithuania is already OECD country. So many requirements we accepted as a country by joining this organization. And maybe for us, it was a little bit easier to start with Safe Zone. But as a free zone, I should say we have not been active enough in supervising particular this area. And this program gave us a chance to learn more from large companies, from OECD requirements, from cooperation with Philip. We have additional know-how which we can use in this particular area. Again, in my country, we are a private company, but we are very much a private-public partnership project with the government. And FEZ, or free economic zone, special economic zone, these words sometimes creating questions and misunderstandings. And this question and this program and this certification process of working together with customs, with port, which is a neighborhood with state authorities responsible with our customers, gives additional confidence for state institutions that free zones in our region are safe, and we are a good partner for the future and not the projects from the past. So I should say that 5 zones are not enough in this program, and I would like to invite others to join, because some safety standards should become just a ABC and hygienic requirement for all our network. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Aimantas, just let me, if you don't mind, repeat some question we already received. So I have 1 question, 2 questions about the customs and the time frame. This is for Lars. A question for Piotr to speak about this task force of illicit trade and any other activity within this framework from the OECD. And I have a question for Bruno, why brand owners can be interested by such kind of program. I will ask now Philip. Philip, if you don't mind, your words are very important for us.
Thank you, Dr. Samir, and thank you, Dr. Mohammed, for inviting me. I'm Philippe Dauvin. I'm the CEO of Freeport in Luxembourg. We are a small free zone in a small country in an old continent. But we learn a lot with this Safe Zone program. Now I can tell that Safe Zone program is the key point of the strategy of my company. Why? You ask me why, Samir, we should apply for Safe Zone certification. We did it last year and we succeeded, like our friend Mentos. And I agree with him when he told it was a key point, very interesting, and we can progress together with this certification. So why you should apply for the certification? For me, it's simple. You need it. You need this multi-purpose tool to show our governments, to show the people and each stakeholder we are compliant with best practices. We are cooperating with law enforcement agencies. We are cooperating with customs in each free zone of the World Free Zone Organization. So what are concretely the best practices? In 3 words: compliance, security, and safety. This is not a dream. This is not only a wish. This is our reality. And I hope tomorrow it will be our reality in all our free zone community. Free zone exists because our governments decided to create or to allow it. So we need to show we earn their trust. We need to show we are responsible and trustworthy. Trust is a major point of the international trade. Safe zone is a good way for that. Based on the code of conduct of OECD, Safe zone is a real tool for business with real benefits for your company, for your zone, and for your customer. You know, I think with Safe zone program, you can show your compliance regarding IP protection, regarding illicit trade fighting, and you want to give your employees a good environment to work. This is one pillar of prosperity. You need your safety, you need the security, transparency, and good employees to work them, and good customers to earn money. If you have only customers, only good employees, you have not a good business. We are not alone. We are members of a community. We have to protect our colleagues. We have to protect our firms, our customers. I think this is the good way to prosperity and development in each country, in each free zone. As the last mentioned, Safe Zone program is not unreachable. I could say it's simple because it shows you with self-assessment first and on-site inspection by a third party, how your zone will be able to progress. And we all have to progress day after day. With Safe Zone, this is not black or white. Everybody can progress and reach first step and platinum certification if you agree and you apply the code of conduct of OECD. Fellow friends and colleagues, we are living in a new world, not yet a post-COVID world, but in a compliance world, as Bruno told. Let's show free zone can be the places in the world for security, safety, compliance, and of course, business. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Philip. As I said, your words are very important for us. On behalf of Aymantas and Philip, I would like to answer one question coming from Tarek. He's asking, because both of you represent somehow private companies, the question is the Safe Zone program open to government company, free zones? We say yes. Safe Zone program is open to all kinds of free zones, private one, public one, and the ones that even based on public-private partnership. So in order to somehow manage this Safe Zone program, in order to assure transparency and quality, it is time for me to introduce another element in this launching, which is our advisory committee. But before I'm so sorry, I need to apologize. Our chairman, Dr. Mohammed Zaraouni, he's called for another very important meeting, and on his behalf, first, thank him for being there and supporting this event. And second, I will answer, and we will answer, is there any question oriented to our organization? So, as I said, the last element that I would like to announce today, it is what I call our advisory committee. These are our pilot zones that, as mentioned by the chairman and as mentioned by Lars, and I would like also to express my gratitude for them to supporting us for this pilot phase. Okay, the advisory committee, it is a committee that we have launched, and it will be launched progressively, in the sense we will include more and more members in it. We need to assure transparency. We need to assure that our program is managed in a very appropriate way. So we need people with experience, we need people with background that will help us to assure that we manage it in an appropriate way, to recommend us if there is any kind of improvement or changes to be added to this program, and to let us focus on the core value of this program. For the moment, as I said, this is a very progressive committee. The first committee is appointed, and starting the second, third year, the floor will be open to entities to submit their candidacy. The first committee will be represented by our members of the board of directors, completely our policy committee, the already certified zone, and we will manage that all the 6 regions present in our board are there, and we are progressively inviting multilateral organization and private sector to join us in this activity. For the moment, as this launch, these are the current member of this advisory committee. I insist, our target with this launch, it is to reach 15%. We are planning to end this year with 20%, and our target is to include as much as we can multilateral organization and private sector in our activity. The coordinator of this advisory committee is Martin Ibarra, Vice President of our Board of Directors, Shannon Fura from the US, Srikant from India, and Lisandro from Argentina. Emeka is from Nigeria, and they are from our policy committee and the member of the board of directors. Philip is having 2 hats. He's member of this policy committee, but at the same time, he's an already certified zone jointly with Aymantas and we have Juan Pablo Rivera from Bogota, Blanca on behalf of the Consorcio Zona Franca Barcelona, and Nasser Madani from Dubai Airport Fee Zone in Dubai. I really appreciate the acceptance of Bruno to be part of this advisory committee, and one of the first companies, private sector companies that supported this initiative is the Buffet Arola from Barcelona, Catalonia, and we have Alejandro Arola with us. So we reached now the end of all these elements that we have decided to share with you and to launch with you. And let me move, we will have just 15 minutes. We are left with 15 minutes for the Q&A. Let me start with Lars. You have already 2 questions. Start with these 2 questions. I have a third one. First, how do you see the customs collaboration in this sense? And what perhaps first, if you don't mind, start with the time frame, and after we move to the customs.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samir, and everybody asking questions. There's a lot of questions coming in. And we are, of course, available also after this event, the launch event, to actually answer these. When it comes to a time frame, obviously, it has to do with how prepared a zone is. We have met zones who are almost meeting all the criteria, and then it is a reasonably fast process, but we also have had others who've gone through the process of doing a lot of the requirements during the process. But if you look at an average, and if you look at how these compliance management programs are normally managed, also in other areas, I think it's fair to say that we talk about 4 to 8 weeks process, 1 to 2 months process. If, of course, also the zone is prepared properly by having read up on the different type of requirements that is available, as we said before, on the World Free Zone Organization websites. So the people and the companies that are applying also have the preparations ready and can put resources in. Then, of course, there always is a dialogue between the validator, World Free Zone Organization, and the company and the Free Zone Organization. So I think that that's approximately what we've seen from the pilot phase, what we see from other programs. It is a comprehensive process, as said by Philip and Aymantas, but it is also a process you can go through if you're really prepared and putting in the resources. And it's very practical, as was said before by our pilots. For the role of customs, quickly then, of course, customs had a very important role to play. This is one of the issues where zones are treated differently, as we said before. Their customs have normally segmentation and risk management done on zones, which is difficult if they don't have access to some cooperation. Now, many zones today already have established cooperation with customs, but the safe zone creates a platform for that cooperation. And the code of conduct initiates a number of things that a zone does together with customs administration and other agencies as well. And by doing that, of course, customs has a role to play, both as an advisor, but also of making the risk assessment differently when they have an access to cooperation with the zone. And finally, I want to say that, as we've mentioned several times, one ambition as well is for those zones who are safe zones, you create a compliance record through the code of conduct and the structured approach of safe zone. That makes it possible for a zone to apply for authorized economic operator status with the customs administration if the customs administration has a mutual recognition and is a part of the World Free Zone Organization. World Customs Organization. And of course, that means the two organizations can work together on that specific thing. And that is another certificate that could be available then and be used by a free zone where there will be interaction with the customs and the safe zone. Thank you.
Thank you, Lars. Before moving to Bruno to answer his question, and after to Piotr, just I would like to clarify this project and the certification is completely owned by the World Free Zone Organization and by its members. Whoever here is as a speaker is an entity that support our organization in its task. So the certification for the moment is absolutely owned by the World Free Zone Organization and signed by the World Free Zone Organization. Of course, our hope in the future is to get in this signature, in this certification, as much entity, as much multilateral organization we hope. I move to Bruno. Bruno, can you please answer the question of why brand owner can be interested by this program? And I would like Philippe and Aimantas to think. I have a good question from David Luna is saying, is this just illicit trade or is it illicit trade, money laundering, intellectual property right? What do you think this certification will help you with? Bruno?
Well, brand owners have an obvious interest in compliance and security of their supply chain because they are the first victims of counterfeiting. This applies to the medicines industry, to the tobacco industry, to the luxury goods, to a lot of economic operators. That's the reason why we mentioned previously the role of the European Agency on Intellectual Property, which supported the work of the OECD Secretariat from the very, very beginning, because it's really a major issue of worrying, a major issue for the brand owners. It's totally obvious. I mean, this should not be long to understand, too difficult to understand why it is important for them.
Okay, thank you so much. Just I need to answer Amber Ruiz. She's the director of Free Zone in Panama, and as mentioned by Piotr, we will share with all the participation the code of conduct of the OECD in order to them to see how it is helpful and applicable in their place. I need Lars to think, and the last question for you, Lars, is just a brief. This is a question coming from several participants about this third-party validator. Just brief us what is it and how it can be and how it will be involved in the process. Okay, I move to Piotr. Please, the floor is yours. Piotr, the micro, please, Piotr.
Yes, I hope you can hear me now.
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you, Samir. I see there are two questions in the Q&A that are specifically to me. But before, let me just follow up on what you, Samir, said, that the WFZO Safe Zone certificate is only owned by the World Free Zone Organization, WFZO. Would like just to reinforce that is indeed the case, and it's not owned or co-managed by the OECD and its task force. It's a very nice initiative, but it's a WFZO initiative, not OECD and our member countries' initiative. I also see a very good question on the list that is to me about a plan for collaboration with specific countries or regions to stop illicit trade. And here, first, I would like to say that, well, yes, indeed, we are open for collaboration with countries, regions, where our expertise is the highest in evidence building, in mapping governance gaps. We have a program of country studies. We have developed some expertise in scoping governance frameworks to counter illicit trade. At the same time, it is not our intention to duplicate any efforts or to create, well, any unhealthy competition, because our final goal is to counter illicit trade, is to fight against criminals, not against our friends. So we are more than happy to work in collaboration with our friends from, say, WCO, who have really great strengths in, say, capacity building, or with the UIPO with training programs, and really work with them, direct any demands to them where the expertise is the highest. I also see a question about pilot program in free zones to validate correlation statistics. Well, let me just clarify that these correlations that I mentioned, database correlations, already have been validated in many dialogues that we had carried out together with our EU IPO partners. You, Samir, mentioned this meeting in Alicante, that was one of them. We also had many dialogues with industry, with enforcement authorities. So I'm not talking just about pure correlations. These are correlations that were validated in meetings with customs and industry community. About the pilot project, our program right now, well, as I said, this is ongoing work. And at this point, it's pretty much premature to say how will it look like in the future. But here again, let me highlight our principles, which is not to duplicate existing efforts, to rely on our partners, to maximize, to leverage expertise that is already there in this anti-illicit trade community. Because again, our common goal is to spur licit trade, clean trade, and to counter illicit trade. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Piotr, for this clarification. There are some questions about procedure and cost. All the information, especially from Mamoudou, all the information about the process and the cost is in our website. One question from Dr. Mohan, if it is one-time certification or there is a need to renew. As Lars answered before, the renewal is every 2 years. Let me move now to Philip and Aymantas, if you have any answer to David Luna, if it is just illicit trade or with this certification, it can be useful for you for other elements.
Yes.
Okay, let me start. Aymantas, please.
Oh, thank you. So far, we were thinking with only about illicit trade, but I should say that this program helped us to cooperate much more on different level with our customs and state authorities. And we are now participating together in thinking what is next. But so far, it was mainly illicit trade. I should also say that for us, with certification, we're looking at it as prevention program. So it means if we are approving, it's not only, if we are getting it, it's not only certificate, but it's also upgraded way of cooperation between FEZ, customs, other state institutions, which prevents from somebody thinking about illicit trade through free economic zone.
Thank you. Philippe, s'il te plaît.
Oui, Samir. Yes, I think this is the main point, the key point was illicit trade on the first day. But there is no sense. If you can do more, you have to do more. In Luxembourg, the law is quite hard with money launderer. So we cooperate with the financial intelligence unit, with the police and customs. Customs are on site. So for us, Safe Zone program is a full program. It depends really on your national law. If your national law allows you to cooperate, to give information to FIU and police, you have to do that. So not only for a quick answer is not only for illicit trade, but also for all criminal activities.
Okay. Thank you so much. I have a question from John. Does certification target companies operating in a free zone? This certification is for the free zones. So there is no, for the moment, we are not targeting with this certification companies. Let me ask, I know that you are linked with another commitment. Lars, can you please answer the question of the third-party validator?
Yes, thank you, Samir, and thank you for the question. What we've said, of course, is that, and I want to underline what Samir said before, the program of Safe Zone is owned by World Free Zone Organization. World Free Zone Organization is where the application is handled. It's in charge of the validation, is in charge of the decision making, and also the review mechanism. However, what we have built into the program is that the part of validation, risk, and the site inspections are done by a third party acknowledged third-party validator, and those validators will be accredited by the World Free Zone Organization. There will be a list of accredited companies that has this experience that can do it, and that is also linked into the 2-year renewal mechanism or review mechanism that will be done by these type of companies. And let me also say then that I think it's important that it is the World Free Zone Organization that owns this program and is run by World Free Zone Organization. But as we said, we see it as a strength. My final point on this would be, we also know that from national legislations, there are agencies doing this in some countries rather than third-party private sector companies. So, for instance, if a customs administration in such a country who has a World Customs Organization AEO program and has done mutual recognition with other WCO members, that could also be a validator doing that site inspection for that specific country. So we're not excluding the fact that government can do these type of site inspections for the World Free Zone Organization Safe Zone program. And normally it will be a third-party validator from the private sector doing that specific work for World Free Zone Organization. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Lars, we have more questions, but we reached the end of this presentation. My commitment with all the ones that have asked some question, we will repeat, we will answer them mandatory by written within the time frame of 1 day. So let me find at the end share with you my last slides. This is really a very difficult time that have been, as it has been mentioned by all the speakers, but we all agreed that when we have difficult time, it is also a moment for a new opportunity, a great opportunity. So the idea, I think globally and locally, we can continue thriving together. I would like to thank our chairman, Dr. Mohammed Azraouni, for his support and for the launch of this program. Thank you, Lars, Bruno, Aymantas, Piotr, and Philippe. Your contribution has been amazing since the day we launched this organization. As we know, I have your authorization to share with all the participants your presentation. We will share the white paper of our organization. Our website is open with all the needed information, and we will share a copy, an official copy of the Code of Conduct of the OECD, which is a mandatory step for this program. Thank you all for attending. Thank you all for speaking, and let's be in touch. Thank you so much. Stay safe. Bye-bye.